My name's Lorenza, and today I'm going to be telling you everything I think you need to know before hiking the Inca Trail. First, I'm going to start off with everything that I think you should pack. So for my day pack, I used an Osprey Daylight Plus, which is a 20-liter backpack. It has a main compartment, a smaller compartment, like a removable front part that I usually just stored my rain jacket in, and then 2 water bottle compartments on the side, as well as an adjustable shoulder strap and waist strap. I really liked this one because it was small, and so having a small bag meant that I couldn't carry as many useless things with me. Most people on the trail as well had a 20 to 30 liter backpack, so mine was definitely on the smaller end, but I guess it also depends on how much you want to carry and how much you need to carry with you. In addition to my backpack, I also carried a fanny pack. This is a Patagonia Black Hole fanny pack. And I usually wore it just crossbody, and I only wore this on the first and last day when we needed direct access to our passports, because I kept my passport, wallet, and a few other things, lip balm and other stuff in here, so it was really easy to access on my chest. And if I didn't need my passport on a specific day, then I just kept this stored in my day pack. So something that I'll get into a little bit more detail after is how to transport your stuff on the Inca Trail. So most tour groups will give you a duffel bag to keep your stuff in, meaning that the amount of things that you can bring with you is really limited. So I packed really lightly, and when I get into further detail, you'll understand why. So what I kept in my day pack was a first aid kit with really basic band-aids, antihistamines, pain relievers, other things like that. I also kept a headlamp to use at night and when we had early mornings on the trail when it was dark, as well as a battery pack for my phone, a rain cover for my backpack. This really came in handy. I guess if you don't have a rain cover, having a really big plastic poncho. I personally preferred wearing this because I think that hiking in the plastic ponchos just is a little bit more restricting in terms of movement, so I had a rain cover, I brought it, and it worked great. Next, I don't have it with me, but chapstick with SPF in it, sunglasses, bug spray and sunscreen, some gloves. On day 2, going over Dead Woman's Pass, it gets really chilly, so I highly recommend bringing some gloves that have like a grippy palm so that you can still hold your trekking poles. Hat. I bought this hat in Peru knowing that I wanted to bring it on the trail with me because I didn't bring a hat. I wore this one mainly to go to sleep because I did hike the trail in June, so it was hot enough throughout the day, but I just wanted a little extra warmth at night. I also brought a buff. This was one of my favorite things that I brought on the trail with me because it served so many purposes. If I wasn't using it to hold my hair back, then I was using it on my neck to prevent myself from getting a sunburn. It's like an accessory too, you know, so you could still look nice while you're hiking the trail, I guess, but mainly I used it to keep my hair back. The next thing that I kept in my day pack every single day was a rain jacket. This is a Columbia Arcadia, and what I like about this one is that it folds into a little pocket. The pocket becomes a pouch. So it was really easy to just crumple it in the pouch, and then I kept it in the front pocket of my day pack so that it was easily accessible whenever it started raining. I would not do the trail without a rain jacket because the weather is so unpredictable, because there's such variation in altitude. One minute it'll be raining, the next it won't. One minute the sun will be really strong. One minute you're freezing, one minute you're getting a sunburn. So I would definitely bring a rain jacket and pack for all seasons, which we'll see next. So in terms of heavy layers, I had 2 sweaters. I had this Patagonia fleece, which was my main sweater, the one that I went to Peru with. I got this with the Inca Trail in mind, knowing fully well that this was going to be the sweater that I wore every single day on the trail. And in addition, I bought a sweater that I bought in Peru as a backup. I mainly wore this one at night at camp, and I brought this on the last day with me to take pictures at Machu Picchu. In addition to packing sweaters, there's a few other layers that I brought. So I brought a green Climate Cool t-shirt and a black one as well. I brought a black long sleeve Climate Cool. I wore this one most of the time because it ended up being better at higher altitudes, just kept me really nice and warm, but also wasn't too hot, so I definitely recommend getting like wicking material t-shirts. They just like hold up better in different climates. I brought a sports bra, this yellow Free People one, and I know some people brought more than one. I did bring more than one, but I ended up only wearing one the whole time. So I guess it just depends on your body, how much you sweat, how many layers you think you need, how many times you think you need to change in a day. Mine only started to get like dirty on the last day, at which point we were able to change halfway through the day, so it didn't prove to be a problem for me. But I guess everybody's needs are different, so go with what you think you'll need the best. As for bottoms, I brought 3 bottoms. The ones that I wore on a daily basis were these black convertible pants from Mountain Warehouse. I loved these ones the best because I was able to take off the bottoms when it got too hot and wear them as shorts. I did wear these every single day. They didn't get too dirty. Most people on the trail also only wore 1 pair of pants. And then I also brought this like wool and synthetic blend base layer, and this is what I slept in at night. And then for the last day, I brought a nicer pair of leggings that I wore with my alpaca sweater to take pictures at Machu Picchu. So in addition to packing the amount of underwear that you think you need, I brought 4 pairs of wool socks, 1 for each day, and I would sleep in them at night. I packed all my toiletries in this REI like hanging toiletry bag that folds up really nicely. Everything fits super compact in here, and I was able to hang it in my tent to see all the things that I had while I was getting ready in the morning. A little extra unnecessary thing that I had was this alarm clock. Our guides actually woke us up in the morning, so I didn't end up needing it, but I brought a travel alarm clock because you don't know if your battery pack is going to last you the whole time, if it's going to freeze, if you'll be able to charge your phone for your alarm clock, so I just brought this one in the event that I wouldn't have been able to use my phone or there was nobody to wake me up in the morning. Another thing that I brought and ended up regretting was a sun hat, and the only reason that I ended up regretting it was that I think that for my purposes, I didn't need a sun hat and a buff. I would have just brought one if I had known. And for me, it would have been the buff. The buff is the one that I ended up wearing every single day, and I hardly wore the sun hat. So I think it just depends on your needs. It depends on what you like more. For me, it ended up being the buff, but there were other times on the trip where I wore the sun hat. It just wasn't on the Inca Trail. Something that I wouldn't have been able to do the trail without was a water reservoir. This is a 2.5 liter Osprey water bladder, and honestly, without this, I probably wouldn't have been hydrated because I'm not someone who's going to stop every time I'm thirsty to just take my backpack off. A lot of people did it, but I just don't want to stop mid-trail to take a sip of water. This just was a way to make sure that I was staying hydrated the whole time. I did have a Nalgene water bottle with me just in case. Usually what I did is I filled up the Nalgene, I filled up the water reservoir, and then throughout the day as my water reservoir went down in volume, I would fill it up with the water that was in my Nalgene. So the next thing that I brought with me is a pair of sandals to switch into at the end of the night, just to wear around camp. Trust me, after hiking in your hiking boots all day long, you're not going to want to wear them while you're eating dinner. So I just brought the Tevas, the like low ones. They're really comfortable. I just wore them with my socks because it got a little bit cooler at night. And I also put these in the duffel bag so the porters carried them throughout the day and I didn't have to worry about them. And lastly, most important things are hiking boots or shoes. I have the Merrell Moab 2s. These were really comfortable. A few people did them in sneakers, but I would recommend, based on the severity of the rocks and just like the overall trail, especially on day 2 and 3, something with like good ankle and heel support. So I wore these, I had broken them in a couple of months before the trail, just so to make sure that I wouldn't get any blisters or anything, and I was really happy with them in the end. So next I'm going to be talking about a few little details of things that you should know in terms of packing the duffel bag for the trail. So I went with G Adventures, and G Adventures supplied us with a duffel bag that we were allowed to fill at a 6 kilogram capacity. So everything that I brought ended up fitting in that duffel bag, and it came at around 5.5 kilos. Meaning that it was good capacity. Now the reason that you have to make sure you're within 6 kilograms is because the porters carry like 10 duffel bags on their backpack every single day on the trail, so they're making sure for their health and safety that everybody has to respect a certain limit so that they don't hurt themselves. Now the only thing about the duffel bags is that they are not waterproof, so I did bring a pack liner, and I packed all of my clothes in the pack liner and then put that in the duffel bag to make sure that if it rained, it wouldn't get wet. This is something that I do recommend doing because a few people got some of their clothes at the end of the day, went to change and get all nice and warm after hiking, and their clothes ended up being a little bit damp. So I definitely recommend bringing like a waterproof pack liner, putting all your clothes in that, and then putting it in the duffel bag that they give you. Another thing that I highly recommend is either renting or bringing your own trekking poles. I think that having trekking poles made a gigantic difference on the trail. I don't know that I would have had such a pleasurable time hiking the Inca Trail if I hadn't rented my trekking poles. I rented mine from G Adventures. It ended up being, I think, 15 Canadian dollars for the 4 days, and they were my responsibility, which is fine. I stored them under my tent at night and use them throughout the entire rest of the trek. Now something that I'm really happy that I did before hiking the Inca Trail is that with G Adventures we arrived to Cusco 2 days early to begin acclimatizing. This proved to be really helpful because Cusco is situated at 4,200 meters, and at the highest peak of the trail at Dead Woman's Pass, you are at about 4,200 meters as well. So by arriving early to acclimatize, your body's getting used to the oxygen levels. And this makes it so that when you're on the trail and you're hiking and you go up 1,000 meters on day 2, your body isn't in shock and you're not nauseous or having really bad headaches and having an overall like unpleasant time. Lastly, I just want to discuss a few of the rules and regulations for going on the Inca Trail during COVID. There's a few things that I wish I had known earlier just because they ended up stressing me out really close to my departure date. So firstly, everyone entering Peru needs to have proof of 2 COVID vaccinations, and people over the age of 50 have to have proof of 3 vaccinations. Depending on your layover, you will need a negative COVID test. So I had a layover in Miami and I had to show proof of a negative COVID test because that's the American regulations for entering the United States. And lastly, there's a form that you have to fill and print and bring with you to the airport to enter Peru, and it's a declaration of your health. So I'll link that in the description below, but it's essentially you stating that like if you're sick, you're not going to enter. If you have any symptoms, you're not going to enter and put other people at risk.
Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to subscribe for more travel content.